Chapter 4. Quantum Physics. To understand about the process of the creation of galaxies, we will need to understand what we are made of, well, what the entire universe is made of. For this, we're going to exit the topic of the universe for now, and enter another world. A world on the exact opposite end of this spectrum of the massive universe. The quantum physics world. This is where it all begins. We all know that we're made of cells, which are made of molecules, which are made of atoms. The lesser known about world lies beneath this level. Below the atom. The quantum world. What makes up an atom? Well, there are many things that make up atoms, but we're going to focus on only a few, though they, of course, all have their place and part. What we're going to focus on are electrons, protons, neutrons, and a whole lot of space. Protons would be the positive energy, electrons the negative, neutrons are neutral, and the space, well, this is where they live. Basically, the protons and neutrons are married together. They, together, make up a nucleus, the house, which is the center of the atom. The electrons are attracted to this marriage, but protons are the opposite of electrons, so the protons push them away. However attracted the electrons are to the nucleus, they can't get in there, all they can do is circle around the house trying to get in. If perhaps, an electron were to contact the marriage, it will be destroyed and recreated again, instantly. The energy never dies, only transferred from one place to another, resembling a destruction and recreation. The protons and electrons act like two opposite sides of a magnet, they push out against each other. It is a combination of these elements that make up everything in our universe. These particles do not have individual characteristics that make each one up, other than whether or not they're positive, negative, or neutral. So, there can't be a difference between one proton and another proton or one electron and another electron, they're all the same other than how much charge they have. What kind of atom they make up depends on how many protons, neutrons, and electrons the atom has. Just running off of this explanation alone, if you were able to see down to the quantum level of yourself, and able to start switching around your atoms all at once, you could turn yourself into whatever you wanted. You'd just be changing the atomic structure of your cells. I say just like, that's all you have to do. Just change your atomic structure around. Ha ha. Okay, protons, neutrons, and electrons make up everything in our universe. The same stuff, just put together differently. That's really not too hard to understand. Moving on. Because this is what makes up everything in our universe, let's explore this world of quantum a little deeper. Wouldn't it be irresponsible not to, since this is what makes up everything? When we get below the quantum level, things start getting weird. What I mean by that is, the way that things operate in the quantum world aren't quite like our practical world. Quantum pieces or particles don't act like normal particles. Normal particles could be looked at like a rubber ball. If you throw the ball and it hits something, it bounces off of that something. If you were to throw a bunch at the same time, at the same target, they would bounce off of each other and whatever your target was. They would all have a destination, all acting and reacting individually. On a quantum level, particles don't act like this all the time. Sometimes when quantum particles are moving, they act as normal particles, but sometimes they act as a waveform. A waveform that makes all the particles work in unison. Each individual particle is basically riding along with the others instead of bouncing every which way off of one another. When scientists found this strange activity, they wanted to record this phenomena, so they set up their recorders. When they had the camera rolling, the particles went back to acting like normal particles. Nothing out of the ordinary to record. What they have come up with is this. The particles on a quantum level act only as the observer of the particles can understand. Subatomic particles, the things that make up everything in our three-dimensional existence, react how they are expected to react by whatever is watching them. An electronic observer, such as a camera, would only be programmed to understand its own programming. The camera isn't capable of making decisions or understanding beyond what it was made for, therefore when it is being witness to something on the quantum level, it limits the quantum level to the intelligence of the camera, preventing the particles from acting like a waveform, limiting their own intelligence to act like a normal particle. Humans, with no idea as to what to expect when looking at things on this level, see a waveform of particles. Particles sitting in idle mode, waiting for whatever is watching them to give an order as to what they should do. The camera gets set up and pulsates the air with its own electrons, giving a reason and understanding to the idle particles/electrons in their quantum world. How is this all possible? Is there an explanation? Of course there is. It all depends on how deep you want to go. Because we're explaining the existence of everything, we need to go deeper, to the very core, or at least as close as we can, and I believe I can take us pretty close. Let's focus on electrons for now. Because these are the parts of the atom that really move, let's make this our focus. What are electrons? Basically, electrons are light. Stored energy that emits light through their collected charge. When you open your eyes and are able to see something, it is because electrons of light are bouncing off of that something, collecting information and hitting you in the eye holes. These electrons of light are then transferred through your brain to give an image in your mind based on the information received. Electrons store information from their surroundings in forms of bits, but on the quantum level, they are called qubits. This may sound familiar to you if you have an understanding of computers, which most do. On a hard drive in the computer, information is stored in bits. These bits can hold or be equal to a value. These bits, more or less, direct the flow of electricity. Bits can be one of two things, on or off. If a bit is on, electricity flows through. If it is off, then electricity does not flow through. The states of these bits are stored within them as ends and noughts. Each bit can be a 1 or a naught. On or off, true or false. Your computer is billions upon billions, and more, of these bits together, making the computer do stuff through these tiny bits of ends and noughts. These are open and closed gates of electricity/energy, doing all of your calculating and running all of your programs on your computer just off of true or false. This works just the same in an atom. An atom is made up of thousands, or more, of these quantum-sized bits holding a value of true or false. So, what's the difference between a bit and a qubit, then? A qubit has the ability to be true and false at the same time. I told you things get weird. A quantum particle has the potential for anything, at all times. It is capable of anything. It's able to make decisions based on its surroundings and what it is expected to do. Does this sound familiar? Sounds like we're pretty close to the first dimension existence, huh? Alright, let's sum up what we have on the quantum level so far. Quantum particles make up everything. Electrons, which are energies of light, can store information and act how they are expected to act in accordance to their surroundings or by their observer, s. Electrons are the moving particles in the quantum world that are made of light. This light, these electrons, hold, store, and carry information with them. When they bounce from something, they have an impact on the world surrounding them. They can bounce off of things and absorb into things. Let's take a piece of tin and set it out in the sun. The sun is sending out electrons that are very highly charged and are moving at a very high rate. The piece of tin starts to get hot. This is because the electrons are getting stuck in the tin. Remember, I was talking about the elements that make up atoms. We haven't brought up the empty space yet. In an atom, there is more empty space than anything. The electrons move so fast within the atom, it gives an illusion of solidarity. If you turned on your window fan, the blades would spin, making it seem as though there was a solid circle there, but in fact the blades of the fan are moving so fast that it just seems that way. If you were to throw something into the fan, depending on the size of the thing you throw, how fast you threw it, the size of the fan blades, and how fast the blades were moving, it would either bounce off of the blades or slide right on through. Quantum particles work the same way. All atoms are made up of mostly empty space. We are made of mostly space. What's happening with the sun and the piece of tin is, the electrons from the sun are getting stuck in between the electrons of the tin, more or less, energizing the tin from the sun's electrons. The electrons from the sun don't stop moving when they hit the tin. They get stuck and continuously move with their charge. So, while the sun's electrons are stuck with the tin electrons, they are still moving about exchanging information, and then breaking free from one another. If you took the tin out of the sun and set it in the shade, the heat would still be coming from the tin, because the electrons would still be moving around, disassembling themselves from the tin. The heat wave that we would feel from the tin is actually electrons breaking loose from the tin and flying into the atmosphere. As long as the sun is on them, the electrons keep gaining charge, and when there is no light on them they lose their charge, but always moving nonetheless. So, what we call heating something up, is actually sending electrons of energy into whatever it is that you are heating and the electrons getting stuck within its structure. The cooling down process would be the electrons dislodging themselves from the object, removing the energy from it. What happens with the energy that dislodges itself? It goes into the air. Heat up a sandwich. When the electrons, heat, goes into your sandwich, you probably can smell it, right? This is the electrons going into your sandwich, getting lodged with and joining up with your sandwich's electrons, carrying the info, and escaping from your sandwich. What goes into your nose is charged up electrons from your sandwich, and these electrons just keep circling around in the atmosphere, getting diluted in the air. The smell or electrons from your sandwich may leave your kitchen, but they are still in existence. They are one of the smallest particles that make up anything and everything and travel wherever they are taken, only reacting to their environment. Everything is given its structure, depending on what the electrons within it are programmed/told to do or its reaction to its surroundings. There has to be more to it than this. If thousands of electrons are orbiting around inside an atom collecting information, and these electrons are able to carry a qubit of this information from one electron to another, where are its bags? By this I mean, there is still a lot of calculating being done by this quantum particle. It can not only hold information and memorize it, but can change its reaction at the whim of its observer. A quantum particle can unify itself, working in harmony within a waveform, along with all other electrons within its tiny galaxy, and still hold the information that was given. I don't know many humans that are capable of doing all of these things, so how can something that is able to calculate and hold all of these capabilities and possibilities be the smallest part to this? Where's it holding all of this information? We know a little bit about atoms and the particles that make them up, and how these particles travel through our world formed of light and information, but what about what makes up these particles? I said that our universe started by thought or a vibration, not light. So, how about this vibration? This is what our universe is truly made of. As of now, the time of this writing, the physics world is looking at a theory to this. You may have heard of it. It's called string theory. Well, according to what information we know, it only makes sense that there would have to be something within these quantum particles that actually holds the information together within the particles. To this we have to look at string theory as the answer. String theory, basically, is a theory that puts tiny strings or bands that vibrate at the core makeup of quantum particles. These strings would be vibrating together, holding the information between the vibrations, moving electrons by how much energy is stored within the bands of vibrations. String theory fits perfectly in place right here. I'll explain why. In order to have made a particle, there needed to be a force to bring it to light, so to speak. A single thought or vibration could bring this about. Thoughts control everything that happens in our lives. In order to accomplish anything, we need to know what to accomplish and what the motives are. Everything that comes to fruition in our world had to be a thought first, only then can it make its presence known in our world. Thought is a vibration. Thought is a vibration that lives within our world that we control. It shapes and melts everything that we see. Thought is the force that is behind everything. You want an answer to the question, why do quantum particles act differently when being observed through an electronic observer as opposed to a human observer? It's because subatomic particles are made up of vibrations. Our thoughts are vibrations. Our feelings are vibrations. Everything that makes everything is vibration. We send out vibrations from ourselves constantly through everything. Everything around us takes in vibrations while everything shares its vibration with everything else. Tiny strings that are vibration. Thought energy. Everything is made of electrons. These electrons store information from everything they touch through vibrations, because they are made of vibrations. This is how they share information and stay in a waveform. Each electron is made of vibrations that collect light/information. The light/information is held in between the vibrating strings. The more light/energy, the more these strings vibrate, and the faster the electron moves. It moves not because of force from propulsion, but from the vibrations of these tiny strings that make it up. Again, these vibrations are the subatomic particles, and these subatomic particles make up everything. What this all boils down to is, every interaction that you have with everything gets a bit of your vibration just from you interacting with it, from the electrons of light vibrating and interacting with other electrons. Whether you touch, taste, smell, hear, or see something, you are taking its vibration with you. Like I said earlier, when you see something, that means that the electrons of vibration and light are bouncing off of something, collecting data, and then hitting your eyes. You take in vibration from someone or something else just by looking at them. We take for granted the feelings that we get when we look at or touch something. Everything has a vibration to it, and we are accumulating this vibration energy constantly. When someone asks you, "Hey, do you remember the time?" your brain refers back into all of those collected bits of information that you received from the vibrations of that time. You get an atmospheric remembrance, not just a visual. There's a feeling that accompanies your memory. These feelings are the vibrations that you felt at the time that you're remembering. After taking a look at vibrations, we can get a better understanding for why the subatomic particles were acting like normal particles when being observed by an electronic device, as opposed to the human device. Humans send out vibrations from themselves, all around them. Electrons flying around from heat/light, bouncing and vibrating off of you, collecting your vibrations information, then flying back onto the world surrounding you. However amazing as this is, the electronic device has more of an electronic pulse than you do. This machine sends out a frequency that overpowers the vibrations of your body, being the alpha energy in the room. The camera is an observer. It transfers electrons from the air into the recorder and turns it into data that it can read later by the video player. The human eyes are doing the same thing, only ours is a little more advanced. Our data recorder is built on vibrations, where the camera's data stores in an electronic manner. We store data in qubits, the camera stores data in bits. The camera is exchanging electrons/vibrations through the air with the subatomic particles, and so are the humans, but the vibration of the electronic observer overpowers the human vibration. It has more power. So, the quantum particles being observed are basically acting just like the more powerful observer's thoughts/expectations, or how it transfers, stores, and collects information from the vibrations in the air. This means that we, as observers, electronic or otherwise, have to send out a vibration through our eyes that lets the particles know how to react, by what data we understand. This is not only the beginning of life that we're looking at when we're watching the quantum particles, but this is also the absolute beginning of the belief system. Return to the universe. Now would be a good time to pull everything from previous chapters together up to this point. We stopped earlier at the creation of galaxies and planets, but we should make some connections between what we're gathering and then the creation of galaxies, more or less, is self-explanatory, if it isn't already. We live in the third dimension and are a part of a multi-dimensional system. Every dimension can and/or has the capability to see/have an understanding of, with full understanding, the dimension below its own. Prior to the Big Bang, there was a void in our dimension, a nothingness. A thought or vibration had to have been the beginning of our universe, because nothing or no matter of any kind existed in the third dimension, just a void. This thought/vibration had to have come from outside of our own dimension because there was nothing here prior. This vibration caused the Big Bang, and off of this explosion were sparks of light/energy. The sparks of energy are pieces of the original vibration energy/thought, blown out around the universe as it's forming, collecting every qubit of information as it's creating, growing, and learning from every move made within our universe. These energies could have orbited around the central universal energy, assisting its progress, much like the inner workings of an atom. Our galaxies resemble atoms. It seems as though everything is based around the atomic structure, from our universe's creation, to the galaxies within it, down to, well, our atoms. Quantum particles are what makes up atoms, and everything is made of atoms. Electrons bounce off of everything, picking up vibrations and energy from anything they touch, and carry this information with them within the tiny vibrations that they are made of. Vibrations make up quantum particles. Everything is made of vibration. Quantum particles react to the observer's data translation capabilities, and this means whenever we look at something, we are sending out a signal through our eyes and bodies, letting the particles know how to react, or letting the particles know what we are capable of understanding, and they will act accordingly, which means quantum particles will do whatever it is that they are asked or expected to do by our observation and vibration/energy. This means that our subatomic particles will do whatever we believe they will do. If subatomic particles are capable of doing this, then so can atoms, then so can molecules, and then so can we, as a whole. This belief system can be interrupted by an observer without an understanding of it. When a non-believing or non-understanding observer is present and has a stronger vibration, they won't be tuned to translate all of the possibilities that a quantum particle can hold. Therefore the quantum particle will react as the stronger energy observing it perceives. With a high vibration level from ourselves, a belief, intent, and an understanding of these vibrations, we can manipulate the world around us through thought/vibrations. Perhaps this can be achieved through quantum computers also, when they get them up to speed. We just lack the knowledge, we don't remember, and/or our bodies are no longer capable of manipulating this world we live in. Again, we use less than 20% of our DNA and brain's full potential. Now that we have an understanding of how vibrations work, we can see how a conscious energy such as the sparks from creation would be able to create these massive galaxies. From a higher dimension, you would be able to see everything clearly in our third dimension, down to its finest point, the vibration, and be able to create through the manipulation of these vibrations, using time as a shaping tool. With an absolute outcome in mind, the vibrations would build upon themselves on the intent, making the intent the ultimate goal of the vibrations. Now we know about how the universe we live in got started. We know about the vibrations that exist and a little more about how things work on a quantum level. We know that our world below the quantum level can be manipulated via vibration. We also know more about the dimensions in which it all exists. But doesn't it seem strange that all of this knowledge and the full potential of the human body has only just recently, in the existence of mankind, been recognized or been even in question? At some point in our human history we had to have known the full potential of the human body at least, right? With 80% of our bodies nowadays sitting dormant or in idle position, it seems a bit strange, doesn't it? Where are the blueprints, the bodies we control? Where's the understanding of what we are and what we are capable of? Does such documentation exist? What about all that's happened from the beginning of our universe till now? The universe is over 10 billion years old, but Earth is only 4 billion years old. Where's the explanation of these things? For the answers to this, we need to start doing a little fact-checking into our history, don't we? We wouldn't want to speculate about something so amazingly huge as the understanding of what we are, so we're going to put the science that we know and compare it to our documented history. A quote from string theorist, Dr. Michio Kaku. I work in something called string theory, that's what I do for a living. In fact, that's my day job. I'm the co-founder of string field theory, one of the main branches of string theory. The latest version of string theory is called M-theory, M for membrane. So we now realize that strings can coexist with membranes. So the subatomic particles we see in nature, the quartz, the electrons are nothing but musical notes on a tiny vibrating string. What is physics? Physics is nothing but the laws of harmony that you can write on vibrating strings. What is chemistry? Chemistry is nothing but the melodies you can play on interacting vibrating strings. What is the universe? The universe is a symphony of vibrating strings. And then what is the mind of God that Albert Einstein eloquently wrote about for the last 30 years of his life? We now, for the first time in history, have a candidate for the mind of God. It is cosmic music resonating through 11-dimensional hyperspace. We are nothing but melodies. We are nothing but cosmic music played out on vibrating strings and membranes. Obeying the laws of physics, which is nothing but the laws of harmony of vibrating strings.